And welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. We are going to continue with, I believe it's day 4 now of our Lifestyle Medicine Week. Each week we're featuring at least one wonderful board-certified lifestyle medicine doctor, also plant-based doctor. And to introduce today's doctors is Dr. Madhuri Paidisetti.
Hi, thank you, Chef AJ. So I'm Dr. Madhuri Paidisetti. I'm an ethical vegan and an animal liberation activist. I live in Chicago and I love lifestyle medicine, whole food, plant-based nutrition, and dancing. I am extremely honored to introduce our chief guests, a husband and wife team, Dr. Shobha and Dr. Arjun Rayapudi, a vegan power couple. Through in-person and online workshops, this fabulous duo has helped thousands of people prevent and reverse chronic diseases and the frustrating dieting cycle, lose weight, and get off medications. Instead of using medications and surgery, these doctors are able to use their kitchen as the local pharmacy. Together, they have co-founded Gift of Health, a nonprofit organization based in Newfoundland, Canada, dedicated to empower people and transform lives through lifestyle medicine. Their life-saving work was featured in the documentary film Plantify on the National Canadian Broadcasting Corp, CBC TV. Talk to Your Doctor is their other feature documentary. Their mission is to bring the Gift of Health experience to a broader audience all over the world through online programs. Dr. Shobha Rayapudi is a board-certified lifestyle medicine physician. She holds a degree in epidemiology and clinical trials from Johns Hopkins University. She's a graduate of the Dr. T. Colin Campbell Plant-Based Nutrition Certification from Cornell University. Dr. Shobha's research work has been published in prestigious journals such as JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, Cochrane Database of Systematic Reviews, Pediatric Blood and Cancer, JACI, and PLOS, which is Public Library of Science. She takes pride in writing healing recipes instead of pills on her prescription pad. Dr. Shobha also helps people create the mindset of building the healthy habits that many want but cannot attain on their own because, as you know, making these lifestyle changes is challenging. Her partner, Dr. Arjun Rayapudi, is another phenomenal human being just like her. Dr. Arjun often shares with his patients that he can help them with his surgical knife or his chef's knives. They can pick. Dr. Arjun is double board certified in surgery and lifestyle medicine. Dr. Arjun is also a fellow at the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada. He also holds a plant-based nutrition certificate from Cornell University and McDougall's Starch Solution certificate. Currently, Dr. Arjun is working as a general surgeon at the Burin Peninsula Healthcare Center. Both Dr. Shobha and Dr. Arjun are certified yoga and meditation teachers. They have a dynamic son, a veggie-loving cat, and a yogic dog. They reside in beautiful, rural Newfoundland, Canada. So an amazing lifestyle medicine physician from Chicago, Dr. Ashwani Garg, told me about these outstanding Gift of Health doctors when I met him last year. And now I'm just a huge fan of Gift of Health. Every story that they have shared about their own health journeys and the transformations of their own family members and their patients is so relatable and inspiring. The Gift of Health team and their programs are so incredibly useful for my own health, as well as those in my family and friend circles and just communities across the world. And the skills, insight, and wisdom they share are so relevant to our life. My only regret is that I wish I discovered them earlier. So Dr. Ajay Shah could not have been more accurate when he stated on his show that this power couple has the biggest smile. And couples with the biggest smiles make the biggest impact. Now, I would like to warmly welcome our dear friends, Dr. Shobha and Dr. Arjun Rayapudi, to speak.
Oh, thank you so much, Madhuri. That was such a warm welcome and such an introduction. Thank you so much. And I can't wait you to see on Chef AJ's show too, because I know you have a lot to share and the world is waiting to hear that, your story as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madhuri. That was so beautiful. Thank you for the warm welcome and introduction. And thank you, Chef AJ, for having us. It's such an honor to be on your show. You are our hero. You are working tirelessly to bring this lifestyle medicine to thousands of people across the world. And we really admire your efforts. It's just so inspiring.
Well, thank you so much. It's so nice to see you again. And you said something right before we went on. Now I can't get it out of my head when I was having trouble with your name. You said some of your patients call you Dr. Raisin Pudding. And I just think that's adorable because I make a rice pudding with raisins and it just makes me smile.
Good. Excellent.
I love the work you do. I was on your show and thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Yes, and that's the chat we had just 3 weeks ago, right? Like
Yes.
it's one of the most popular on the Gift of Health, like the channel, and also on the Gift of Health page. Many people, like thousands of people, have already watched it, and they loved it. And some people, we actually put that as one of the suggested videos for people who are taking our 6-week program and 6-month program, because I think we thought you shared so many valuable nuggets of wisdom just even within that brief 1 hour.
And also after your show, so many people were hooked on to balsamic vinegar. I mean, they ordered and they love it.
That's funny. That's funny. Great. How did you guys get started in lifestyle medicine?
Well, we started as a conventional medical doctors, right? Go medical school, residency training, and then started working I started working as a general surgeon. And I was working in a small rural hospital that serves over 35,000 people, over 100-kilometer radius in rural Canada, Newfoundland. And I was seeing quite a bit of sickness and disease, like Newfoundland, like the place where I work, is like the number one in terms of breast cancer, colon cancer, stomach cancer, diabetes, when compared to other provinces in Canada. I was so busy from day one, like I didn't expect to be that busy. My work was involving like gastroenterology and general surgery. And I was, scratching my head. Why is there is so much sickness and disease here? I was seeing patients with breast cancer and colon cancer in their 40s, and these cancers, some of the patients I saw, the cancers were aggressive compared to what I saw in US and in India. I didn't know what was going on, but I was too busy. My first 2 years of work, I was busy cutting people open and whatever is not working, just take it out, or doing scopes from above and below. So that was my work. In 2 years into my practice, I was getting really frustrated and fed up. Like many people who I treat them, if I take their gallbladder out for their gallstones, they would come back a few months later with acid reflux, a few months later with constipation, and even some patients came back later with other issues like diverticulitis, perforated diverticulitis, or even maybe colon cancer. So this is the pattern I was seeing. And then I started to realize that most of the surgeries that I'm doing, they're only temporizing them, like they're not helping them in the long term. And around that time, I happened to see this movie Forks Over Knives on Netflix. And that really opened my eyes, especially the work of Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Colin Campbell. Like when I saw this image of where Dr. Esselstyn showed that you could actually open up the clogged blood vessels, I was like, I was surprised, and I was also angry at the same time, because why didn't I learn about this thing? That just changing diet can actually open up the clogged blood vessels. And then we like looked into the connection between the food and medicine, like, because we are clinicians, we love research, so we had to do the work by ourselves. Like, we reviewed over 1,000 studies of the connection between food and health, or that over the last 3 decades, published in the last 3 decades. And what we saw was this connection was there. Like, the people knew about it, how we could not only use food to prevent disease but also reverse chronic disease. And then with that, we started, like, I started changing my diet. I've lost over 70 pounds and kept it off. And I used to be a very fat doctor, and now I'm like, I feel healthy, more energy, and I can go on. And a lot of things happened in my family as well. Like, with this plant-based eating, I was able to help my dad to avoid invasive procedures on the heart. Like, 6 years ago, he was told that he needs to have either stents or bypass surgery within a week. And he, for most of his life, he struggled with diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. And he was having shortness of breath then. And his angiogram showed 90% blockages in 2 out of the 3 main blood vessels that supply the heart. And the cardiologist said he needs to have either stents or bypass surgery. And these are pretty risky procedures. Having the chest cut open and having vessels taken from the legs and getting them sewed onto the heart, these are pretty risky procedures. So I asked my dad, instead of having your chest cut open, why don't you open your mouth and put different foods? And he thought I was crazy, but he decided to give it a try. And in 2 weeks, he was feeling so much better. He was walking longer distances with no shortness of breath. In 3 months, he came off of his diabetic medications, blood pressure medications, and cholesterol medications. And it's been over 6 years now. He never had to have stents, no bypass surgery. So that's the power of food. So we have experience, we've saw the research, experienced personally, we have seen it in our family members, and then through gift of health, we've been able to help thousands of people, like, use this food as medicine to get off medication treadmill, reverse chronic disease, lose weight, and keep it off.
Yeah, I would say I reached to the same destination of lifestyle medicine, but like I have a different story. Like, as a kid, I always wanted to become like my dad. Like, I have never seen such a caring, intelligent scientist. And when I was in medical school, actually, my dad received an award from the President of India for his innovation of low-cost technique. So he was awarded with the Bharat Udyoga Ratna, that is actually awarded to a person for economic development of the country. And I wanted to be like him and make some innovation in the medicine field too. But when I was in medical school, whenever I saw the textbook, I always used to see people with US authors. So I used to think, oh, maybe people in US know how to invent things. Maybe that's where I should go to study. And I chose none other than the Johns Hopkins, thinking that, okay, that's where I'm going to learn, like, how to invent things. And when I came, I was like very fortunate to be among walking legends and Nobel laureates. But to cut the long story short, ultimately, like, what the research showed is, as long as you're having whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, you can prevent and also reverse diseases. Then I was like, okay, there is nothing much to invent. The only thing is, like, we have to implement. But that's the most hardest thing to do. And luckily, like, fortunately, I also come from a country where I have seen people lead in their, I mean, highest potential, and also do conscious living. So coming from that background, I was always curious to know, like, is there a way where we can lead a disease-free life before we leave this planet? And that was all my curiosity, and that's what I wanted to offer to the world as well. So then mostly I was quick to understand that, like, the way I can help is maybe help people to implement this lifestyle changes, because this is not something easy to do. And I completely love lifestyle medicine, and I hope more and more doctors come to know about this beautiful field.
Well, I can imagine it must be gratifying as a lifestyle medicine doctor, seeing your patients actually get well instead of having to have just pills and procedures all the time.
Yes.
That's one thing. What where especially my first 2 years of practice was like, doing adding more medications or doing more surgeries. And after I discovered plant-based nutrition and lifestyle medicine in last 8 years, it's like I I get excited when people get better with my surgical knife, and also now I see that people get better even with the power of my chef's knife. So I tell patients like, hey, chef's knife or surgical knife, you pick. They're very powerful. Like, so food is. Many people know that food is medicine, or food is powerful than medicine, but I would say food is actually even more powerful than surgery. For many chronic diseases, you could either avoid surgery, or like delay the surgery for a really long time for many chronic conditions.
That's amazing. And that's amazing about your father.
Yes, it's. I mean, we're so fortunate that we came across Dr. Esselstein's work, and we were having a conversation with him actually just a few weeks ago, and he was delighted to. Um, he was delighted that how his work helped him.
So was it after seeing Forks Over Knives that you guys adopted a plant-based diet?
Yes.
How old was your son at the time?
He was so that's 9 years back. So he was like 7.
Was it any struggle for him to adopt it?
A little bit like challenging, because he used to love a lot of meat-based dishes at the time.
Like, as a kid, obviously he loved chicken fingers or chicken nuggets and other things. But one interesting thing happened in case of our son. Uh, he At that time we watched the documentary Earthlings, and we were just 5 minutes into that documentary, and he started crying. He said, is this what they're doing to the animals to make food for us? If that's the case, I don't want to be a part of it. And then and there he decided that he's not going to have any animal based food. And I was like, he's a kid, maybe he's not going to stick to that. Obviously when his friends are eating chicken nuggets in front of him, he would go for that. But I was quite shocked to see that, like, he was so, I mean, clear that, like, he doesn't want to eat that. And it used to be funny to see the conversation between him and his friends, when his friends were, oh boy, you have no clue what you're missing, this steak is so good. And he would go, do you know how much water is consumed to make that steak? And detail all the cowspiracy facts. So it used to be funny to see that conversation. But once he got his why, he adopted plant-based diet.
That's fantastic. So he's pretty solid in it now, right? He's happy
Yes.
with his choices. And that's fantastic. And I think I understand that at some point some kids are probably too young for Earthlings, but if that's what it takes, I think if everyone saw Cowspiracy, Forks Over Knives, and Earthlings, and they didn't go vegan, then they frankly just don't care about anything. Because
that is so true. I think what keeps people stuck is not knowing the information. It's not many people know the power of food to the extent, like even in the plant-based world,
or even the choices that they're making.
yeah. And there is so much confusing information out there when it comes to diets. Like it's so easy to be confused. But if you look at the evidence, the scientific evidence, it is so clear. It's just that the more plant-based we go, the healthier we get.
Absolutely. You said you wanted to talk about reflux today, and it's interesting because I hosted a summit last year, and I'll do it again this year, called the GI Health Summit. And that seems to be a very common problem, even in people that are plant-based. And I know that for my husband who had it, I remember we used to have to sleep with our bed up on like bricks, and we'd be sliding out until he went to a more unprocessed whole food plant-based diet without oil, without processed food. He was having endoscopies and medicine, but the minute he went on my diet, the healthier version, the reflux disappeared, and he never had to take the proton pump inhibitors again.
That is so amazing. It's we're so glad that, your husband started listening to you, and that is so amazing. Yeah. Many people talk a lot about the benefits of plant-based eating and focused on chronic disease, but one of the easiest diseases that we could say goodbye to is acid reflux. Acid reflux is so common and prevalent. Almost every one of us gets acid reflux at some point in our life, and I would say almost like 1 in 10 people are on prescription medication or at some point in their life for acid reflux. So I have few slides I would love for your audience to ask any questions, but we wanted to share some mechanisms that are involved in how a few foods cause acid reflux. Not many people are familiar with how some of the common foods contribute to acid reflux. So
we'd love to see your slides, and also maybe just for lay people, what is acid reflux? Because obviously, things have to go down, but sometimes they go up. And
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So see, the best way to look at it is like our gut. Our gut is like one long tube. It starts with the mouth end, and when we eat the food, it goes from the mouth into the food pipe and in the stomach, and then the food goes through the small bowel, then large bowel, and we poop it out. So the food is supposed to go from the mouth end to the south, to the butt end. But if the food starts to come up from the stomach instead of going down into the intestine, if the food and the stomach acid starts to come up into the esophagus, that's what we call acid reflux. And many people experience, you might have experienced like some heartburn, some indigestion, or some excessive burping or belching.
Or bad taste in the mouth.
Yes, and not able to sleep, especially at nighttime, because the acid is coming up. And some people, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It's just that when you talked about the symptoms of acid reflux, I started thinking about my mom. When she had a heart attack, those were her symptoms. And she was very delayed going to the emergency room because she didn't know she was having a heart attack. She thought she was having acid reflux. So in this case, it's kind of an important differentiation. How do people know?
Yeah, it is so important to know that, like, the chest pain from the heart disease or heart attack can mimic or look like acid reflux episode, and it is very easy to fall into the trap of treating someone with heart disease as acid reflux. So that is something that you have to be really careful. Like, the thing with heart disease chest pain is mostly it is exertional. Like, when you do any little bit of activity, you have more shortness of breath, and the chest pain sometimes is more radiating to the jaw. If it is from the heart attack, it is more radiates to the jaw or radiates to the left arm. And if any doubt, you should be seen by the doctor. And what also helps distinguish is sometimes people with heart attack, they may have the risk factors like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity. But unfortunately, all these risk factors also, when people have these risk factors, they're also more prone to having acid reflux. So this is a very tricky situation. That's where, if you're in doubt, you don't want to wait, you just seek medical attention. And when some basic tests are done, like if they're in EKG, things are done, it's easy to pick up and differentiate whether you're having a heart attack versus simple acid reflux episode.
Right. Thank you for explaining that.
Welcome. So I'm going to share some of the slides, and we will feel free to let us know if you guys have any questions. Let's see.
Yeah, there was a question that I saw from Troy Lynn about a vinegar and acid reflux. Can people with acid reflux have vinegar? Does it make it worse?
It is, I would say you have to go case by case basis. Some people with acid reflux with vinegar, they don't have any issue. I've seen people with chronic acid reflux, they take all kinds of vinegars, they're fine. But some people, like, they don't respond very well to the vinegar. So you have to go case by case basis. But even before we address the issue of vinegar, I think we should address the whole of what you are eating in a day. What are you eating for breakfast? What are you eating for lunch? What are you eating for supper? It's not just one food that's going to cause acid reflux, but it's the whole. Like, in a day, typically we eat about 4 to 5 pounds of food. Some people eat more than that. So it's the whole intake of food, that what the quality of the food that we're eating that contributes to the acid reflux, rather than one particular food.
Great, thank you. And people, it is an individual thing, like you say. Just because one person can't have it doesn't mean everybody shouldn't have it.
Yes, and there is also misconception, like, even citrus foods, right? Mm-hmm. Citrus foods, people think that they increase acid reflux, but we have seen people who go from an omnivorous diet to a plant-based diet, and they're eating like oranges and lemon, and they're not getting any acid reflux. So if you're on a eating omnivorous diet, and then then the tomatoes and the citrus foods can be a problem. But if you're on a plant-based eating clean, then tomatoes, even spices and citrus foods are most of the time are not the issue.
Yeah. What are some of the complications of untreated acid reflux? If it gets so bad and people don't do any kind of treatment, what can occur?
Many things can occur. Like with, I have actually a few pictures to share.
Please, please. Sorry, I didn't mean to get ahead of you. When I was just thinking about, I was just thinking about the one time that I lost my voice, and I actually went to a ear, nose, and throat guy. Said, "Well, you have acid there," and I'm like, "Oh, that's why I can't talk." My husband was very happy though.
So, see, many people are used to medicating their acid reflux, but our agenda is by the end of this, like next 20-30 minutes, you'll be knowing a lot about how to eradicate acid reflux rather than medicate. So the thing is, why medicate if you can eradicate? So this is a famous quote by Hippocrates. He said over 2,500 years ago that all diseases actually begin in the gut. If you look at our practice, what we do on a weekly basis, and as a part of my gastroenterology general surgery practice, these are some of the complaints that I see in patients almost on a daily, weekly basis. People having bloated stomach, heartburn, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, excessive burping, growling stomach, constipation, diarrhea, burping, acidic taste, loss of appetite, morning sickness. These are all these symptoms are related to the food intake. Like, and many people don't get the much needed time and counseling from their healthcare providers when they're presenting with these complaints. It's almost a knee-jerk kind of reaction to reach out to a prescription pad and treat the symptoms. So to understand acid reflux and other gut diseases, we find it is so important to have a basic knowledge of how our gut functions. So as we stated already, like our gut is like a one long tube, starting at the mouth end. Here, when we eat the food, goes through the food pipe and then into the stomach, then into the duodenum, which is the first part of the small bowel, then it goes into the jejunum and ileum, which is all small bowel, and then goes into colon. And we the undigested food, or the partially digested food, or the processed material, like we excrete it out through the anus. So it's one long tube. So our gut has only two ends. One is the mouth end, and the other one is the butt end. So I get a lot of patients with constipation and diarrhea. So I use this concept. Hey, if you're having constipation or diarrhea, so think of it this way: your gut has only two ends. One is the mouth end, and one is the butt end. So where is the constipation or diarrhea is happening? It's happening at the butt end. So so what comes out depends upon what goes in. So unless you fix what goes in, taking supplements, like taking medications, and even having procedures for constipation and a chronic diarrhea without fixing food is mostly band-aid approach. So acid reflux and heartburn is so common. Like people might experience acidic taste in mouth, pain in the lower chest area, unable to sleep, changes in voice if it's like not treated for a long time. And some people even have worsening of asthma and their lung. Some people actually have worsening of asthma and chronic lung disease. This is one of my patient, like, who had acid reflux that has been going on for several months. What you're seeing here, all this this one light salmon colored, this is like a normal tissue, and this red and angry, almost like there is some pus here, this is all the burning caused by the reflux or the regurgitation of the acid. This is another patient, like he has here you see streaky pattern and this chronic acid causing some burning and some blood here. So if these are left untreated, these can heal with scar tissue. So chronic acid reflux, when it heals with scar tissue, it can actually cause narrowing of the food pipe. So we call it stenosis, and then the food gets stuck. And that's also very, very common. I see almost on a weekly basis where I had to go in the late in the evening or in the middle of the night to go into the hospital because someone ate some meat and the food gets like stuck, and I had to go take it out. I've taken out a fish, piece of fish, a piece of chicken, piece of moose, piece of turkey from people's esophagus because it was stuck in the lower part of the esophagus, and that's from chronic acid reflux causing like narrowing there, and I had to stretch it. And when the good news is, when people change their diet and lifestyle, these things heal. They heal very quickly. Our body is so good at healing, and all we have to do is like stop doing what's causing it in the right place. So let's look into that. So here is a picture of the stomach. The stomach has two valves. At the upper end of the stomach, there is one sphincter, which makes sure that the food and the acid, it stays in the stomach and it doesn't go back up into the esophagus. And there is also a sphincter at the lower end of the stomach. Sphincter is a valve, so which is released gradually so that like there is enough time, the food stays in the stomach for enough time, optimal amount of time for it to digest, to break it down. You don't want the food to stay too long, because if the food and the undigested food, partially digested food in the stomach stays too long, then it can come back up, especially when people are lying down flat. So we'll look into what actually impairs the function of the sphincter here and impairs the function of the sphincter here. Because if this sphincter or the valve between the esophagus and the stomach is not functioning well, it's very easy for the acid and the undigested food to come up and cause burning. One thing I want you to understand is basically stomach acid is good. We all need some amount of stomach acid because the acid in the stomach, it helps with the digestion of the food, because the hydrochloric acid, which is a type of acid stomach makes, it helps in the conversion of the enzyme called pepsin. Pepsin is the enzyme that digests the protein, and hydrochloric acid is needed for the pepsin to be active. Otherwise, you can't digest the protein that well.
And also this acid helps to kill the bacteria or other microbes that are coming with the food. So actually acid is protective.
And having optimal amount of acid in the stomach, it also helps with the absorption of the minerals, absorption of iron, absorption of B12. So many benefits of having optimal acid. We don't want too much, and we don't want like also at some people who have been on medications for a long time, they don't have optimal amount of acid, and they're not absorbing, like especially if people are on PPIs, which are the common medications that are being used to suppress the stomach acid, then you have malabsorption. We'll look into what are the side effects of PPIs as well. So we already talked about this, how acid reflux happens when the stomach acid flows up backwards to the esophagus. This is where many of my patients get surprised. Actually, all protein-rich foods, including meats, chicken, fish, eggs, dairy products, increase the acid production in the stomach. Many people are so focused on avoiding tomato-based foods, avoiding citrus foods, and yes, those are they can contribute to acid reflux, but not as much as the amount of protein intake. So how does this happen? Like the way the proteins get digested in our body is like protein gets broken down into peptides and polypeptides by the enzyme called pepsin. This enzyme, for it to be active, stomach has to make hydrochloric acid. So if the stomach is not making enough acid, then this conversion of pepsinogen, which is the inactive form of pepsin, to pepsin, which is the active form, this doesn't happen. Then the food doesn't get digested. So what this means is, like, the more protein we eat, the more pepsin stomach has to make. That means the more stomach acid the stomach has to make. So it's directly proportional. The amount of stomach acid stomach has to make depends upon the amount of animal protein that we eat. Researchers did this study with comparing the effect of plant protein versus the protein from the animals. And the plant protein, the protein coming from the plants does not have the same effect on the acid production. So there are also other mechanisms like meats and other proteins in the food. They stimulate this hormone called gastrin in the stomach, and gastrin increases the release of this chemical called histamine, which stimulates the production of hydrochloric acid. So there are many more mechanisms, but these are two main mechanisms. I would say that I mean, this is it's amazing how how our stomach functions, and all this cascade of things, they're there to have the optimal amount of acid in the stomach. But if we go towards the animal-based foods, then we are asking for more and more stomach acid production. One problem is the amount of protein. Then the other problem is the amount of fatty foods that we eat. Fatty foods cause acid reflux in two ways. One is that they relax the sphincter at the upper end, relax the valve between the food pipe and the stomach. Like foods like butter, cheese, oils, and meats, they relax the sphincter and making it easy for the acid to come up from stomach to the esophagus. And these foods and fried foods and cheese and butter, these foods also slow down the stomach emptying, because these fatty foods, they release if we have excess fats in the foods, they stimulate the production of gastric inhibitory peptide, which slows down the stomach emptying. These fatty foods also increase the production of CCK, a hormone called CCK, cholecystokinin, which slows down the stomach emptying. So if the stomach bag is full of acid, and this acid is not going south into the intestines, And especially when we lie down flat, it's so easy for the acid to come up north. So uh, 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 like it's a many common foods that people eat, especially the combinations, like if you're eating chicken and cheese, a combination of animal protein and animal fat, that's a concoction for excessive acid production. Like, but these are the foods that the typically many of my patients, like, they were eating before they started the plant-based diet, like having eggs and bacon for breakfast, or having like a fried chicken, a turkey sandwich for lunch, or having shake and bake chicken, or a chicken breast for supper. Like, this is the typical meals that increase the acid production. And this, if you're eating these foods, no matter how many medications you take, you'll have to be on these medications forever. And despite taking those medications, they're not addressing the cause of the problem. So there are other risk factors, like we'll quickly touch upon, like smoking increases acid production. So if you're smoking, just it's a good idea to stop. Here is another reason, because smoking also damages the inner lining of the stomach, which increases the risk of ulcers. Alcohol, like even a small doses of alcohol, it has shown to relax the esophageal sphincter, which increases the acid reflux. Um, so there are other conditions, like we have already touched upon the protein, the fatty foods, and if you are overweight, so that excess weight puts pressure on the stomach. It also alters the anatomy of the stomach, making it easy for the acid to come up north into the food pipe. So hiatal hernia is another condition which is very, very common, like where the opening in the diaphragm, which is the muscle through which the food pipe comes into the abdomen, that if that opening in the diaphragm is stretched, it's easy for the acid to come up. The good news is this, even though hiatal hernia is so common, but if people change their diet to plant-based eating, then it's not having the hiatal hernia that's the problem. It's the food that if you're eating foods that increase acid production, then you have a higher risk of having uh, the damage from the excess acid. So even if you have a small to moderate size hiatal hernia, when you change your diet, I've seen like people either avoiding taking medications or reducing the need to take any medications. uh, what do we typically do with acid reflux? Like in conventional medicine, people are put on the common medications are PPIs. These are called either Losec or omeprazole or pantoprazole, and there are other class of medications called H2 blockers. Those are Zantac and but the common side effects from the PPIs, which the proton pump inhibitors, these are like the research is expanding on the side effects. Uh, there is published evidence to show that if you are taking acid reflux medications, they weaken the bones. Like there is research to show that there is increased risk of osteoporosis in people who take uh, proton pump inhibitors for a long time. And these medications also increase the risk of infections, the lung infections. Some research showing that they are impairing the cognitive function, like increasing the risk of dementia. And the people who take this medications for acid reflux, they also have a higher risk of getting polyps in the stomach. And as we already stated, like these medications also decrease the absorption of B12, and some research showing that people who take medications for acid reflux, they have a higher risk of overall mortality. And the other thing is, they don't address the taking medications for acid reflux. They do not address the cause of the problem, and if there is an inconvenience of taking the pills every day and the expense involved. So our goal is not to just manage acid reflux. Our goal is to eradicate or stop it, like, and so that's why we started, like, when we said in the beginning, why medicate, you can, when you can eradicate. So what to eat and what to avoid for avoiding acid reflux: eat more whole grains, more beans, more lentils, more fruits, more vegetables, seeds. And what to avoid are the animal based foods, which including meats, including chicken and fish, especially where I come from. Like, we live in Newfoundland right now. For some reason, in Newfoundland, many people don't consider chicken and fish as a meat. So that's why I had to say meats, including chicken and fish, because a protein is animal protein is of fish and the beef. They're pretty much similar. A muscle is a muscle. Like, it doesn't matter whether it is coming from fish or a chicken or a beef. So avoiding the meats a lot, and dairy products, oils and fried foods, processed foods, hot and spicy foods. Like, this is something that you should be careful and avoid it in the beginning. But once you're established eating plant-based, I've seen people able to eat all kinds of spicy foods as well. And these are the other things that you want to avoid: are smoking, soda, coffee, and alcohol. Coffee lovers, the more coffee you drink, more acid reflux. So one more reason to give up acid reflux. One more reason to give up these habits to suppress the acid reflux. So typically, like, when people go to the hospitals or the clinics, like, you have the symptoms of acid reflux, and then you're diagnosed with an endoscopy, having a light down and checking the stomach, and then you're put on medications, which most of the time they're treating the symptoms and manage the complications. This is a reactive model that we've been using for decades for acid reflux. At Gift of Health, we propose an alternate model, and this is what we've been using with our patients, with our clients, in our Gift of Health programs, the 6-week program, 6-month programs, where we're educating about the food, how the food, like what type of foods increase acid reflux, what type of foods decrease acid reflux. We're also educating about how our body works, how our mind works. So education about the food, body, and the mind. And education alone is not important. We find, like, once you know the information, what to eat, what to avoid, you also need to know the skills: how to cook, how to shop, how to read a nutrition label, how to deal with the difficult cravings, and how to answer to your friends and family members who roll their eyes when you tell them that you're eating plant-based. So having these skills and surrounding yourselves with an environment that supports your health, either at home, at work. So this is a model that we've been using, and all of this surrounded with a circle of support from us, support from the community of people who are on the same journey. So this is a model that we have used to help thousands of people so far for chronic diseases. We'll share the data just in a minute. So this is a very early data, like from the first 2 years of doing Gift of Health workshops. Like, we had 112 people who had high blood pressure, 96 people who had acid reflux, 84 people who had high cholesterol, 73 had gut diseases, various other gut diseases like diverticulosis, irritable bowels, and 45 of them had diabetes, 12 had heart disease, 6 of them had previous history of cancer, and 46 people did the workshop Gift of Health program with they just want to prevent any illness. So initially, when we started doing the Gift of Health programs, our focus was on chronic and helping people with chronic disease. But to our surprise, what we found was one disease that where we were absolutely killing it was acid reflux. Out of the 96 people who had acid reflux, over 98% of them have either given up the medication for acid reflux or reduced the dose of acid reflux medication. So, and this freedom from acid reflux, it happened right from the day. Some people actually stop taking their medication on the day or the next day after when they started the plant-based eating. So the power of food is so amazing. Um, Chef AJ, you have done a fantastic job of like teaching people how to eat this way. This is the model that we've been using. Eating more whole grains, legumes, and starches. Start with that, and then vegetables and fruits. And this is for common people. Like when we are introducing them to the plant-based eating, we keep the processed plant foods to the top, so very minimal. And once they're eating this way, we say like just like even
Stick to the bottom.
stick to the bottom. The more you stick to the bottom, the faster the results you'll see. The more you go to the top of the pyramid, the slower results you'll see. So the food doesn't mean it's just, you're not just eating fruits and vegetables, whole grains and beans. You could mix and match these things. And
Yeah. So basically, like when you're having the foods, you're using the whole grains, beans, lentils, fruits, and vegetables to make soups, stews, stir fries, burgers, lasagna, fries, fritters. So as you can see, like we can make so many things and still enjoy them.
Without causing acid reflux, like
Yes.
many people eat their burgers, and if you want to have acid reflux, so if you try this, if you have a burger and a McMuffin and some fries, that's a sure recipe for acid reflux. However, if you were to have a burger made in a plant-based way, not the processed plant-based ones, or you make some fries in the oven without oil, and make even a chickpea salad sandwich or lasagna, you can enjoy these types of foods without suffering from acid reflux. So we will stop there, and we'll take any questions. And you're muted, Chef Age.
Sorry about that. I did mute
That's
myself
okay.
so I wouldn't interfere. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. We do have quite a few questions. And let me start with the ones that I see first. I wrote a few of them down in case they disappeared in the chat. So thank you for mentioning coffee, because somebody actually said that coffee really bothers them, even decaf, because decaf still has about 25% of the caffeine intact. And they wondered, is it the caffeine that's the problem? Is it the acid in coffees? Both? What do you think it is about coffee that gives people that are sensitive to reflux such a hard time?
It's both. Like it's not just it's the acid itself, and the hotness of the liquid as well. Like and sometimes when people drink coffee, it's the double and triple, like the cream and sugar that they're putting. So it's the coffee itself, whether caffeinated coffee or the decaffeinated coffee, and the additives that go in the coffee, and the accompaniments that go with the coffee. Many people, when they're having coffee, they're having either a tea bun or like a donut or a biscuits. Those things are they're processed flour and oil. So it's that habit itself is you're asking for a trouble.
Nice, thank you. And Diane wanted to know, is GERD the same as acid reflux? Are they interchangeable terms?
Yes, Gerd is the technical term we use. Gerd stands for gastroesophageal reflux disease. So that's the technical term we use in medical terms, Gerd, yes.
Great. And a few people are asking about hiatal hernias. Are there a way to repair them without surgery? Are there ways to tighten the sphincters? And what is the treatment for it?
Very good question. So hiatal hernia, as I shared, like hiatal hernia happens when the opening in the diaphragm is the muscle that separates the chest cavity and the abdomen. So when the opening in the diaphragm is stretched, so then a portion of the stomach can herniate into the chest. With that, when that opening is stretched, it's easy for the acid to come up into the esophagus. The good news is that when you have a small to moderate hiatal hernia, which is the 90% of the people, I would say 95% of the people have small to moderate hiatal hernias. Very few people, handful of people have a large hiatal hernia, which needs surgery. For a small to moderate hiatal hernias, the problem is what you're eating and the lifestyle. Because if you fix the food and the lifestyle, then you've cut down on the acid production to a remarkable extent, and even though structurally you are more prone to having acid reflux, you're making just optimal amount that is needed for digestion. So no issues.
That's great. And people are asking, is it okay to drink lemon water or apple cider vinegar on an empty stomach?
It's okay, but we have seen people like who do it excessively, complaining about acid reflux. So if you're just having like a small amount, that's fine. But we have had people, they were doing lemon and water like morning, afternoon, evening, 3 or 4 times a day, and they were wondering why they're getting so much acid reflux.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And Troy Lynn is asking, can you get treatment for it but continue to have it? Like, for instance, can you still be on PPIs and still have symptoms?
Well, see, the thing is when you're taking PPIs, PPI stands for proton pump inhibitor. Inhibitor means what are we inhibiting? We are trying to inhibit the effects of Western lifestyle on our body. Because this is a normal mechanism. It's normal for our stomach to make acid, but by taking these medications, you're suppressing that acid production. So what's causing the higher amount of acid production is actually our diet and lifestyle choices. It's eating too much animal protein, or this is a word of caution for plant-based eaters, because their plant-based eating is a spectrum. Many people can, if you're eating like a processed plant foods, you're eating oils and like vegan butters, or these processed plant foods also increase acid reflux. So you want to fix the overall quality of food and move towards whole foods, starch-based, plant-based way of eating. If you don't fix the food and keep taking the medications, it's just a band-aid. Actually, we had a slide that, because of the time we had to take it out. And on a typical day, we eat about 4 to 5 pounds of food. That means by age 50, we eat about 100,000 pounds of food. And if you're eating 4 to 5 pounds of food every day, and you're taking this tiny, tablet to suppress the acid, like 4 to 5 pounds of food to increase the acid, and then one tiny pill to decrease the acid, in the long run, who will win? Right? So unless you fix the food and lifestyle, sometimes even in a plant-based world, like people, they may be eating plant-based, but if you're going for wine, like if you're going for like coffee, if you're drinking too much tea, and chocolate, yeah. And then also this habit of eating late in the night, right? So even if it's a good food, like plant-based food, you want to finish your supper by 5 or 6 o'clock, like 3 to 4 hours, at least 2.5 to 3 hours before you go to bed, because the lighter the stomach when you go to bed, the less acid reflux you'd have.
No, absolutely. We promote that all the time. Not eating at least 3 hours and perhaps even more before bed is. Our ancestors didn't eat at night. They would have gotten eaten if they,
Yes.
So, absolutely. So Nancy says, can someone develop esophageal cancer without experiencing classic heartburn symptoms? Wondering what kind of other signs there could be.
It's possible. It's possible because chronic acid reflux itself is a risk factor for developing esophageal cancer. And if you had a low-grade acid reflux, and if you had it for a long time, you may not be sensitive to that small amount of tiny amount of acid reflux happening over a long period of time. So any minimal amount of acid reflux that you have, you want to address it and see your doctor, talk to your doctor, and then see if you need to change your lifestyle. Despite changing lifestyle, if you still have acid reflux, then you may need to have an endoscopy where a qualified gastroenterologist or a surgeon looks inside the food pipe or the esophagus. So your doctor may send you for that test. So unfortunately, I've seen again and again where the first presenting symptom where, like, for a patient with esophageal cancer, is difficulty swallowing, They didn't have many symptoms before. And when we did the endoscopy, basically showing the signs of cancer. But for the most part, like if you are sensitive to your body, you would be able to detect these small amounts of acid reflux. I think it's just that as a culture, we have learned to accept this acid reflux as a nominal thing, and many people don't seek attention to for a small amounts of
Yeah.
minor episodes of acid reflux. But there is no other good test to detect esophageal cancer early.
Right. Thank you. Some people are saying pineapple bothers them.
Yeah. So so for some people it could be pineapple, some people it could be orange, some people it could be onions, some people it could be garlic and ginger. So the thing is, the good news is in the plant-based world, you have thousands of foods. If one or two different kinds of foods bother you, then put them on the bothersome list and go with the foods that don't cause trouble. What we found is when people start out from an omnivorous diet to plant-based eating, when people start out, their stomach is more sensitive. So, but once they're into eating plant-based eating for like few weeks to months, the foods that used to bother them before didn't bother. Like we have had many students in the gift of health programs where they thought they couldn't eat oranges or pineapple or banana or grapes or tomato or even spices. Now they're just eating all those things. So your sensitivity of the stomach and gut also changes over a period of time.
Is there an actual cause of acid reflux, or is it different in different people?
It's as I shared in my presentation, like it's a multifactorial. Like why someone makes more acid is a multifactorial. The biggest factor that contributes to how much acid you make is the type of food that you're eating. So as I shared, like the more animal-based foods we eat, the more acid production. The more fatty foods we eat, the more damage from the acid, because that acid is staying in the stomach too long. And the more processed foods we eat, more acid reflux. And other risk factors are coffee, smoking, overweight.
And also stress, like
Yes.
other non-food related are like having a lot of stress or unable to sleep. So lack of sleep too, that contributes to having acid reflux.
Absolutely. Our body and mind, these are so connected. Like these are two sides of the same coin. What happens in the mind happens in the body. Like if you're having too much stress, that stress itself like increases the production of acid in the stomach.
Yeah. Can there be long-term consequences to being on these PPIs, or eventually can they just stop working for some people?
For many people, they stop working, like especially if they continue to eat the foods that are causing acid reflux. After a while, you might have heard, or many people in the audience might have heard people going from shopping from one medication to the other. Usually switching to the newest and the medication, just going from maybe Losec to Pantaloc to Nexium to the Dexilant, the Zantac. Is just going from one medication to other medication, and after a while they could stop working, because what are we doing? We're not addressing the cause of the problem.
Exactly. And it's so interesting how people that eat differently than us, they would rather just take a pill and continue to eat the bad food.
Yeah, and as a culture, like many people actually don't feel it, because if they're surrounded with these foods and surrounded with the people that they're eating this way, they think that's normal. Like, hey, and just that Joe or Jill, they're eating these burgers, they're doing okay, they're not getting acid reflux. So they don't make the connection, but that person may not be getting acid reflux. That person is having either stones forming in the gallbladder, or stones forming in the kidney, are having blockages in their heart blood vessels with the same food.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I know like doctors or some of us may think that you are just telling the patient that don't eat this or change your eating behavior. But actually what you're asking that person is, you are literally saying to that person, stop drinking coffee, stop taking chocolate, stop if you're having soda or pop, stop taking that. No cheese, no chicken, no fish, no oil. So it is so overwhelming. I mean, like after you run down the list, the patient might think maybe it's easy to kill you than to avoid all these things. So it's not fair even to expect that these changes could be made easily. But if we make the patient or participant understand that like there is a way how they can change this, or if they are given the tools and techniques how to make these changes, it becomes easier for them as well to make these changes. Because even research studies have shown like when you're trying to make one behavior change, you're 80% more likely to be successful and keep it for a year. But if you add two behaviors, there is a 35% chance of you keeping it. But if you add three behaviors, there's less than 5% chance to retain it. So if we can tell the patients that like whenever you're saying, even the patient might be thinking, which should I do first? Should I stop drinking soda? Should I give up my coffee first? Should I give up my cheese first? Should I give up my chicken? So it is so overwhelming. And on top of that, we have not gone to the other pillars too. We are just talking about food. We are not talking about managing the stress or sleep. And imagine if we tell all of these.
So that's why we feel like this is where the lifestyle medicine comes in. This is where we need to understand. We need patience and we need perseverance, and we need like also coaching who can guide us, and the support, because changing lifestyle and habits is hard. It's not that easy. Yeah,
So,
it is. Yeah.
so that's why, and especially in the clinic setting, in the four walls, it's difficult to do, like where you're actually asking the patient to undo the lifetime of habits.
And you get 10 to 15 minutes for most of the appointments. So what do we address? So
for the
that is one of the reason, like Chef AJ, where we went from our clinic-based practice, hospital-based practice, to actually doing the workshops and the online programs, is because where we felt like people need this time to change their breakfast, change their lunches, change their suppers, like gradually, like, we start with breakfast, lunches, and suppers, one thing at a time. And then within few weeks, you have transitioned.
Nice. I thought that was so funny when you said you had to actually tell the patients that chicken and fish weren't meat. I mean, what did they think they were? Vegetables?
Yeah.
And something's getting stuck in your throat. I'm thinking maybe it's a good idea not to eat it,
Yeah, but many people don't get it. We have actually we do have professional patients coming back, like professional. I call them professional patients because these are like these people come back with the same issue, despite like I've taken out pieces of meat from patients who 3 or 4 times. It's
to me, if it happens more than once, it's kind of a hint that maybe you shouldn't be doing it, don't you think, if it's the same patient? So here's a question: what causes the LES to malfunction? Is that the lower esophageal sphincter?
Yes. So that's what we share. The things that cause malfunctioning or impairment of lower esophageal sphincter are like if you're taking excess fat in the diet, like oils, butter, cheese, chocolate. These things relax the esophageal sphincter. Coffee impairs the function of esophageal sphincter. Alcohol impairs the function of esophageal sphincter. If you're overweight, that also impairs the function of the lower esophageal sphincter.
That's interesting. Yep. So do your best not to be overweight and eat plants. Let's see. I saw something else. Hold on. Sorry, there's just a lot of nice comments in the chat about you guys. So will vegan cheese also increase acid reflux? Will it have the same effect as regular cheese? Says Kinjal.
Depends. If you're making the cheese using some potatoes and some carrots, some cauliflower, some nutritional yeast, and maybe a few sunflower seeds, that may not contribute to any acid reflux. But if you're buying store-bought processed vegan cheeses, where if you look at the ingredients, the first or the second ingredient itself is oil. So these store-bought processed plant-based cheeses And in fact, along with that, you could put the even plant-based meats, like fake meats. They can cause increase acid reflux.
Great, thank you. Let's see, I saw another one. Oh, this is interesting. So Bella says, why do some people that eat whole food plant-based with no oil still have GERD issues if they have no hiatal hernia?
So then we actually have to look into the whole,
Food.
we have to look at the food diary. This is what we do, like when we actually do, we see a patient or a client for this complaint, we actually get a food diary for 5 days, because most of the time what we are eating and what we think we're eating is actually, there is a difference. So it's important to note what we are eating, and we could help pick which foods can, even in the plant-based foods. So if you're going more on the processed foods, then they can increase the acid reflux. So if you're eating whole foods, plant-based, and still having acid reflux, then we have to look into other lifestyle factors. Is it the coffee? Is it the alcohol? Is someone overweight? Are you not sleeping enough?
Are you stressed?
Yeah. Are you eating late? So all these things make contribute to an acid reflux.
Great, thanks. Here's an interesting question from Marcy. If all protein pump inhibitors just all they do is reduce stomach acid, then why are they bad?
I think, Marcy, I don't know whether you missed the initial part of the presentation, because we said that the stomach acid, the normal stomach, we want our stomach to make acid. This acid, the stomach acid, in the production in the optimal amount is actually beneficial for us, because the stomach acid helps in the digestion of the food. It helps with the absorption of the minerals. It helps with decreasing the chance of getting infections. It helps with the immunity. So the acid, the normal acid production in the optimal amounts has so many benefits. By taking a PPI, a proton pump inhibitor, you are suppressing something that is normal. So then you have the risk factors from that, because you're having malabsorption, minerals.
And the medications itself, they have the side effects.
Yes, yeah. So you're having the malabsorption. You're having a digestion also impaired, because you need just a optimal amount of acid to digest the food. But now you take a PPI, then the acid production is stopped, and you keep eating the food, so the food is not getting digested. So you're having undigested food go into the small bowel, so that puts more stress on the pancreas and the small bowel. So we want our stomach to make acid in the optimal amount, and that by taking PPIs, you're suppressing something that is normal.
Terrific, thanks. We have a bunch of people asking in the chat, what about Tums?
Well, again, Tums is like a Band-Aid, right? Did you get acid reflux because your body was lacking Tums? No, right? If we need a Tums, then we might have born with a bottle of Tums, right? Like our body has mechanisms to make the just right amount of acid. And when we follow the laws and the nature of our body, and then our stomach makes the right amount of acid. See, you can also look at it this way. Like as a surgeon, I look at the anatomy. Anatomy is how the structure of the body is. Our body, the human body, structurally is so close to a herbivorous animal, a plant-based eating animal, where our stomachs, like a herbivorous stomach, makes the optimal amount of acid to digest the food. Whereas the carnivorous animals, the animals that are meat eating, like cats and tigers and dogs, their stomachs, they can make a lot of acid. They can handle a lot of acid. The measure of acid is something called pH. The pH that their stomach can handle is much lower. The power of acidity that they can handle is much lower. The carnivorous stomach is much lower compared to the herbivorous stomach and the human stomach. So our body is not suited. Our stomach Like if you're putting chicken and cheese and meats, you're going against the nature, the dharma, or the laws of the body.
Absolutely. Did you address silent reflux yet? A couple of people asked about it.
Yeah, so silent reflux is something where people may not feel the symptom. The reflux is happening, the symptoms, they may not feeling any burning sensation in the chest, but some people have without, there is unexplained, for unexplained reasons, they have dental erosions, and they have the acid coming up in the mouth, or some people may even have changes in the voice, like they may not have the burning, but they change in the voice. So silent reflux can present in many ways, and for this you will have to work with your doctor and still fix your diet and lifestyle, and you could reap the benefits of that.
Nice, thank you. Let's see. Just there's so many. Do you guys see people virtually, in person? How do you work?
Yeah, so through people can visit us on our website, giftofhealth.org, www.giftofhealth.org, and we have a tab there, work with doctors, and people can take consultation with us, and we help people all over the world through Zoom or through phone,
Through
virtual consultation. And also one thing that is very, very popular, like we are very well known for the 6-week Gift of Health course that people can join if you have acid reflux or gut diseases or chronic diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, overweight, arthritis. So this is a lifestyle medicine program, especially using food as medicine program. So we take people through a stepwise manner, like, okay, you do this first, next. So over 6 weeks, you learn the skills to adopt a whole food plant-based way of eating. So that's one option. And then we have other programs, like for people who have done the 6-week programs. Yes, we do help people virtually all over the world, and that's through you can find it at giftofhealth.org.
Nice. And Amy says, what about carbonated water? Is that bad?
It depends. For some people, carbonated water doesn't cause any acid reflux. You may get some bloating and burping. That's normal, like little bit of bloating and burping when you drink sizzling water or carbonated water is expected. But if your diet is heavily processed, heavily animal based, then taking this carbonated water can be adding, like it's another factor contributing to the bloating and the acid reflux. But if your diet is more and more plant-based and more clean, having carbonated water is most of the time is not an issue.
Great, thank you so much. And sorry, it's just every time I see a question, I should write them down, that they jump right afterwards. Oh, I saw a good one. Where was it?
You're doing such a great job, Shobha.
Thanks. Here it is from Anna. Is chronic phlegm, throat clearing, a sign of GERD?
Yes, it can be. It can be. There could be many reasons, but it could present that way as well.
That's interesting. Yeah. This is a oh, here's one. Mary, I've heard that drinking peppermint tea relaxes the sphincter between the stomach and the esophagus and causes reflux. Is that true? Because I know sometimes people take peppermint tea for like bloating or IBS type symptoms.
Yes, peppermint tea helps quite a bit, like if you have bloating and irritable bowel symptoms. So in some people, it can contribute to acid reflux. So I would say, again, you have to go individual, like case by case basis. Like it can contribute to acid reflux. But if you're just taking for bloating and excessive belching, you may find more benefit with it.
Right. Well, here's a fun question, not on reflux, but about you guys, from Monica, saying, what does your wake up protocol look like? What does a day at your home look like with food and sleep? And I would add exercise as well, because you are a lifestyle medicine doctor. You have to practice all the pillars, not just 3 of them.
Yes. So we typically wake up before the sunrise, and we love to see the sunrise. And we start with some gratitude. Happy to be alive. like, opening the eyes, happy to be alive, and set an intention to do the best we can. And then we do a morning yoga, meditation, like depending upon our day and schedule. Like we try to do for at least 30 to 45 minutes. And then we go, actually, I'm giving the summary of what we do, but both of us have a little bit different. Like, for me, I go as soon as I get up, I go take a shower. Like some of the shower, the ending part of the shower is actually a little bit cold shower, so it and wakes me up, and then I go into our yoga and meditation room and do my morning routine. And then Choba, she wakes up, and right on the bed, the first thing she does is she starts doing her yoga and meditation right on the bed. So and after the morning that is done, then we make the breakfast. Most of the time our son makes the breakfast, so which is a luxury. Like Shobha has trained him to make the breakfast. Like he puts the steel cut oats in the instant pot. And after his shower, he goes and just puts a couple of cups of steel cut oats in the instant pot, and he does his meditation. By the time that is done, the steel cut oats are cooked, and we have it with some fruit. And again, three of us make this oatmeal in three different ways.
So we would say, like, given like we have a teenager and different needs, so mostly it is layered meals. So the same oatmeal, Shakti has it in one way, I have it in one way, and Arjun has it in a different ways. And sometimes it could be just steamed veggies, or it could be steamed leafy greens. So it differs. But when it comes to routine, so each one of us have a different morning routine, but I would say similar in nature. And then each one of us go do their respective work, and again have a evening and night routine.
Yes, and some days in the mornings, like especially in summer, like we try to get out and go for a walk. Like we are surrounded by water here. Like we live in beautiful place like Buren, Newfoundland. It is so beautiful. And everywhere we go, we have places to hike. So we might go for a walk or a hike in the morning itself. And
or like when we don't find time in the morning, we usually do it in the evening time. And also we have a dog,
yes.
dog Maitri, so we have to take her for a walk.
And we take our cat also. We just take him outside. He likes to feel the fresh air, and he's happy when he feels the fresh air, and he wants to come back inside. So that's a part of the routine, morning routine as well.
Oh, that's nice. Well, people would love to see your son. Maybe he can come on the show and show us how to make breakfast for his family.
Oh, sure. Like he makes fantastic breakfast. He can make lovely blueberry waffles, chocolate chip waffles, pancakes, and he makes delicious pastas.
Yes. Oh, he's a pasta expert, I would say. And also he is such a professional baker. I mean, like I would have tough time to make eclairs. I mean, like baked goods, but he's like he's very good at following the recipe or making sure that it's the right texture and all that. Just like a professional cook.
So what you'll see like in our house is like even three of us also, there is a little bit of differences in how we eat and what we eat. Like when our son is eating, he eats more of the processed plant foods, in the sense like the flour based foods. Like we leave him generously, like if he wants to eat breads, if he wants to eat pasta, if he wants to eat like waffles, like that's all. Like he eats them generously, but we tend to go more with the intact grains, right? So he loves more and more of steel cut oats. We actually love more and more of oat groats. So it's always like in the night before, it's always a discussion. Like what are we having? Are we having oat groats? Are we having steel cut oats? Are we having So then the other night, what we said is whoever gets to the instant pot first, they gets to pick the choice. So because he likes steel cut oats, we like oat groats. So it's
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, well, I love oat groats because they have like a rice-like texture more.
Chewy, yeah, nutty, chewy. Yeah.
Well, people would love to meet your son if he's available and see him do a cooking demo. So how can we support you in your work? Are you most active on Facebook or Instagram? Where would you like me to send people?
Oh, we are active on Facebook. We are also on Instagram, and we also have a YouTube channel. So on Facebook, if you type in
.org.
yes, so you'll find us on Facebook, and YouTube is the Gift of Health channel is there, and also on Instagram. You can find us there. And best way I would say is to visit our website giftofhealth.org, and when you subscribe, you'll know you can you'll know the latest developments.
And
we share
also, like for subscribers, weekly we share recipes, tips, and how to make lifestyle change. So I think the best way that they could benefit is subscribing to our website.
Great. Well, you guys are just wonderful, and it's so nice that you work together like this. Yeah,
Thank you.
So we call you Doctor and Dr. Raisin Pudding. I love that.
Actually, people used to, like, whenever they used to see me, oh, there goes wife of Raisin Pudding, or whatever name he goes by that day.
You've made it so easy for me to always remember what your name isn't, but I think it's really, you guys are just delightful. Thank you so much. And guys, follow them because they truly are wonderful people. This was a wonderful presentation, and all your colleagues in lifestyle medicine are just wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Chef AJ, and thank you for doing this.
Oh
And thank
God.
you for having us. It's such a
The
pleasure.
pleasure's mine. I mean, you guys don't have to thank me, because this is like the highlight of my day, this 1 hour. So thank you. And thank all of you who watch live and who don't watch live, who watch the replays. It's really fun when you watch live because we have our own little thing going on here in the chat. Please come back tomorrow when we have another wonderful lifestyle medicine doctor. Best of health to you, Gift of Health.
Oh, thank you.